Folks, we're going to do a little walk today, a little journey, and I'm going to expose to you some connections here. Connections between the swamp rats. And the reason we're going to talk about this, the swamp rats and what they're doing to target the Trump audience now, is did you notice that there's been an odd, seemingly misplaced timing, an odd resurgence of the Russia and impeachment hoax stuff? The Rudy Giuliani story, a big expose by Russia Rachel Maddow last night on MSNBC. Did you notice that? There's been this weird resurgence. Why is the Russia hoax back? Why is the Russia hoax and the impeachment Ukraine hoax, why is it back? Can I make a suggestion? Is that okay? Is everyone okay with that? Everyone's okay. I'm getting a head nod here. He's giving a thumbs up there. I think the FBI must have found something on Hunter Biden and John Durham, who is doing an investigation into the Spygate thing, which I'm very skeptical. I just want to put that out there. I'm skeptical of what's happening. But I think the reason you're seeing a resurgence of the Giuliani targeting and the Russia hoax is because the FBI must have found something on Hunter Biden on that laptop. They need a distraction. And John Durham must have found something in the Spygate thing that could lead to some really embarrassing information coming out on the Democrats. It's the only explanation, folks. Why else would the debunked Russia hoax be coming back again? Well, because the Democrats, when they know they're backed up in a corner, they know they have the media on their side, they know they need a distraction. So Giuliani and this resurgence of the Russia hoax will serve as that. And remember, the Democrats are always good at accusing Trump of what they're doing themselves, and the media will help them. Now, there is a great piece in the show notes today, the newsletter, Bongino.com/newsletter by Lee Smith. The real reasons behind the Giuliani raid. It's in the Epic Times. I'm going to get to this in a little while later, some screenshots from it, but I just want you to keep this in your head. This is a great piece. Read it in the newsletter. There are reasons behind the Giuliani raid and what I'm going to show you next with Rachel Maddow. And it has nothing to do with the impeachment hoax or the Russia hoax being any more credible today when the hoaxiness of it was exposed months ago. It's because they're looking to hide something. My guess, Hunter Biden and what John Durham found. So they're going to go on a full court press. Here, Russia Rachel, Moscow Maddow to the rescue. Here's Maddow. Was it last night or the night before? Doesn't matter. Really, it all blends in. There has been no bigger promoter of the PP hoax, Russia hoax, than this disgraced, fake, phony fraud who does nothing more and enjoys nothing more than to make up tinfoil hat, lunatic conspiracy theories. Here's her latest one. I'm going to show you a quick video where she actually debunks herself. She's back to promoting this hoax that when Bill Barr was the attorney general and Robert Mueller was investigating Trump, that Trump would have been prosecuted for obstruction of justice in the whole investigation, the Mueller investigation, if not for this memo called the Office of Legal Counsel memo. This is, I don't want to confuse you, so I'm going to walk through this slow. The hoax is this, that Bob Mueller was looking at charging Donald Trump for obstruction of justice or people on his team while he was investigating him on the whole Russia thing. And that the only thing that stopped him was this Office of Legal Counsel memo from decades ago that said you can't prosecute a sitting president except for limited circumstances. Everybody tracking? The media wanted that story out there. That yes, Trump would have went to jail. It was just this memo that said you can't prosecute the president, that sitting president, that stopped them. It's a hoax. Here's Maddow bringing up the hoax again last night, and you have to ask yourself, why?
When Mueller finished his report, you might remember that Trump's Attorney General, Bill Barr, told the public that he, William Barr, had consulted with Justice Department attorneys and had decided, on their advice, that despite these 10-plus detailed instances of alleged criminal obstruction of justice by President Trump laid out in the Mueller report, Bill Barr, consulting with Justice Department attorneys, had determined that despite all of that, nothing Trump did was really a crime. And so Trump shouldn't be prosecuted. Remember, Barr said that they didn't rely on this prohibition on a president being prosecuted while he's sitting in office. He said, actually, we decided at the Justice Department, I decided on consultation with Justice Department attorneys, that none of those things described constituted a crime. That's why Trump won't be charged.
You see the narrative? Are you picking up what we're putting down here? Russia Rachel to the rescue. They must have found someone, Hunter, so they need Russia Rachel, Moscow Maddow, to come in and help them out. So, of course, the Hunter stuff and the Durham stuff, they need that to go away. So they reintroduce an already debunked narrative because Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who I don't trust as far as I could throw, and that's not very far, has said, hey, they really didn't characterize the deliberations over charging Trump for obstruction of justice accurately. Okay, sure. She wasn't in on the deliberations, keep in mind. She has no idea. She's basically just reading some emails. So Russia Rachel now has to push the conspiracy theory again that, yes, Trump obstructed justice, and the only reason he's not in jail is because of this OLC memo, and Barr knows it. Really? So we'll ask the question because we do actual facts here, unlike Russia Rach. Did the OLC memo, was that the only reason they didn't charge Trump? In other words, they had all this evidence and it's just this memo that stopped them? Well, that's interesting because Bill Barr actually gave a press conference about this a couple of years ago with Rod Rosenstein, by the way, no friend of Donald Trump, sitting right off his left shoulder where he already debunked this thing. Keep in mind that segment from Maddow is from this week. She's bringing this up again because she can't stop. Here's Barr putting this thing to bed completely. Check this out.
Rosenstein and I met with him along with Ed O'Callahan, who is the principal associate deputy. On March 5th, we specifically asked him about the OLC opinion and whether or not he was taking the position that he would have found a crime but for the existence of the OLC opinion. And he made it very clear several times that that was not his position. He was not saying that but for the OLC opinion, he would have found a crime. He made it clear that he had not made the determination that there was a crime.
Keep that name, Ed O'Callahan, the name he mentions there, in your head for later in the show. And notice, if you're watching on video, Rod Rosenstein standing right there. So what Bill Barr said in that press conference is, I was in the room. He's talking about his conversation with Bob Mueller. Barr's saying, I'm in the room with Mueller. Rosenstein and Ed O'Callahan, he'll come up later, we're there. Rosenstein's at the presser. So if Barr's lying about him, you think he would interrupt him, right? He doesn't. So clearly Rosenstein, no fan of Donald Trump at all. And Barr says, no, it wasn't the OLC memo that stopped Mueller from charging Trump with obstruction of justice. It was Mueller, who already told him it wasn't the memo that got in the way. In other words, Mueller didn't charge him with obstruction of justice because they didn't have a case. It had nothing to do with the memo. So why is Russia Rach up to this again? Well, you may say, well, Dan, Bob Mueller has a different version of what happened in that room. Bob Mueller definitely said, I'm charging Trump and you guys are stopping me because of the OLC memo. Really? Because that's interesting. When Mueller was given the chance to address the memo that supposedly stopped him from charging Donald Trump, Mueller said this under oath on Capitol Hill.
I want to add one correction to my testimony this morning. I want to go back to one thing that was said this morning by Mr. Liu, who said, and I quote, "You didn't charge the president because of the OLC opinion." That is not the correct way to say it. As we say in the report, and as I said at the opening, we did not reach a determination as to whether the president committed a crime.
What else do you need to hear? Why is Russia Rachel? Why is she doing this now? I told you it probably has to do with Hunter and Durham. Here's what I think is going on. I think Durham is uncovered evidence in this. What happens with it, I don't know. I have very little faith in this. I just want to be very clear. I'm not, so please, those of you who think I'm putting any faith in the Durham investigation, I'm not. I've been disappointed too many times. But I do think they found some things. And I think one of the things they found was that they had come to a pre-existing conclusion that Donald Trump was colluding with Russia no matter what. And as the evidence piled up that he wasn't colluding with Russia, it didn't matter. So you got it? Durham probably has evidence that the whole Russia hoax, they had come to a pre-existing conclusion Trump colluded with Russia no matter the evidence. What did I tell you before? Democrats always accuse you of what they're doing themselves. So the best way to distract from Durham's, hey, they had a pre-existing decision already made, Trump had colluded with Russia regardless of the evidence, is to flip the script and say Barr had done the same thing. In other words, what Rachel Maddow say, Barr had already concluded he wasn't going to charge Trump because of this OLC memo. And so they're trying to flip the script and blame it on Barr. They're accusing them of the same thing they're doing. It was the investigation that had come to a pre-existing conclusion, the Mueller investigation, not Bill Barr. They pull this scam every single time. Whenever Moscow Maddow says something, you can almost be guaranteed there's a scam there. She's suggesting Barr had some pre-existing conclusion. Then you should always say to yourself, she's suggesting Barr had a pre-existing conclusion. That must mean the Democrats had one. And that's probably what Durham's finding right now.